On the morning of April 24, 1990, the Space Shuttle Discovery climbed off the coast of Florida, carrying the most anticipated scientific instrument of the century. Astronomers had waited 2 generations for this, a telescope above the atmosphere, above the shimmer that softens every star you have ever seen. Hubble had cost about $1.5 billion, and at its heart sat a mirror nearly 8 feet across, ground and polished for years in a clean room in Danbury, Connecticut, until, by every measurement its makers took, it was the most precisely figured large mirror ever made. The next day, the shuttle's robot arm lifted the telescope from the cargo bay, held it up to the sunlight, and let it go. 40 years of astronomy's dreams drifted away into the dark. By every measurement its makers took, hold on to that sentence. The first picture came down on May 20th. An engineering test, a star field, sharper than the ground could manage, but nothing like a miracle. Focus, everyone assumed, would come with tuning. It did not. For weeks, a Maryland control room sent focus command after focus command, and every attempt failed the same way. Each star collapsed, not to a point, but to a point wearing a halo, like a headlight in fog. Worse, both cameras saw the identical halo, so the flaw was not in the instruments. It was upstream, in the mirror itself. On June 27th, NASA walked into a press conference and said it out loud. Spherical aberration. Light from the edge of the Great Mirror and light from its center focused at different points, and no command from the ground could ever pull them together. The perfect telescope could not focus. The laughter arrived within days, and it was merciless. On the Senate floor in July, Barbara Mikulski of Maryland, Hubble's home state senator, the woman who guarded NASA's money, demanded, "Is this a great telescope or a great Techno-Turkey?" David Letterman read a top 10 list of Hubble excuses on late-night television. The next year, a comedy film hung Hubble's portrait on a wall of famous disasters, beside the Titanic and the Edsel. Inside NASA, the truth hurt more than the jokes. The telescope was not blind. Its spectrographs still worked, and computers could partly sharpen its pictures of bright things. What it had lost was exactly what it was built for. The faint universe, the oldest light, the deep past. America owned a crippled masterpiece, and the whole world was watching it squint. 5 days after the announcement, NASA convened the Autopsy, a board of inquiry led by Lou Allen, director of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. The trail ran back to Danbury, where the mirror had been ground a decade earlier by the Perkin-Elmer Corporation, a company that no longer quite existed. Its optics division had been sold and renamed while the telescope waited for launch. There, investigators found the tool that did it. The null corrector, the custom rig that had judged the mirror's shape, still assembled, untouched, exactly as it stood in 1981. Inside it lay the whole story. A lens in the rig had been positioned by a laser aimed at the end of a metal measuring rod. The laser had missed. Its beam had locked onto a worn spot in the dark coating of a cap covering the rod's end, and that one bad reflection set the lens 1.3 millimeters out of place. Now, the indictment. When the lens would not fit where the bad measurement said it belonged, technicians did not stop and ask why. They slid ordinary metal washers into the assembly to hold it there. The rig was disagreeing with itself, and the disagreement was accommodated instead of investigated. Polished for years against that corrupted tester, the mirror was figured to the wrong prescription with breathtaking precision. Its edge too flat by about 2.2 microns, 1/50th the width of a human hair, yet 10 times more than the design could tolerate. A mirror meant to focus 70% of a star's light would manage 10 to 15. Two simpler test instruments contradicted the rig. Both were dismissed. The certified tester had to be right, so the cruder ones had to be wrong. No independent test of the finished telescope was ever performed. Inside a program running late and over budget, where raising a problem only slowed things down. The Allen board wrote the sentence that outlives everyone involved. The data revealing these errors were available, but were not recognized and fully investigated at the time. The disaster had one strange mercy. The flawed rig still existed, so the error could be measured perfectly. And an error you can measure perfectly, you can cancel. At Ball Aerospace, an optical designer named Merk Botema drew up the answer. Small mirrors ground with the exact equal and opposite flaw. Eyeglasses for a telescope. If anyone could work out how to place them inside a machine the size of a school bus. In a hotel bathroom in Garching, Germany, an engineer named Jim Crocker, sent to brainstorm the rescue, stood in the shower, staring at the showerhead sliding up and down its adjustable rod, and saw it. Arms could carry corrective mirrors up into the telescope's light. "I could see Merk Botema's mirrors on the showerhead," he said. NASA's own historian admits the story sounds too good to be true and reports it as fact. The fix cost something. The 10 coin-sized corrective mirrors could only ride up in a box that took a healthy instrument's place. One instrument died, so 3 could see. A new camera would fly too, its correction ground into its own optics. Delivering it fell to 7 astronauts on what NASA called the most complex shuttle flight it had ever attempted, an agency still carrying Challenger, now carrying the jokes, its credibility riding on one mission. The payload commander was Story Musgrave, surgeon, mechanic, 58 years old. He rehearsed the repair for months, hundreds of hours underwater, building the whole mission in his head, he said, like the score of a symphony. One vacuum chamber suit test left his fingers frostbitten from hours in punishing cold. 7 months later, he flew anyway. Endeavour rose in the middle of the night on December 2nd, 1993, and across 10 days, her crew went outside 5 times, back to back, 35 hours and 28 minutes of spacewalking, more than any shuttle crew had ever done, installing the new optics, swapping solar arrays and gyroscopes, a repair costing hundreds of millions of dollars. The new mirrors settled in. The world waited. On January 13, 1994, NASA put 2 pictures of the same spiral galaxy side by side. The smear the world had been laughing at, and next to it, suddenly, structure, arms, dust lanes, individual stars. At the podium stood the senator who had coined Techno-Turkey. Barbara Mikulski held them up and told the cameras, "The trouble with Hubble is over." The program's chief scientist said it was fixed beyond their wildest expectations. The deeper proof came 2 Christmases later, when the telescope did something arrogant. For 10 days it stared at a patch of sky in Ursa Major, chosen because it appeared perfectly empty, a keyhole of nothing. 342 exposures came back, carrying roughly 3,000 galaxies. They named it the Hubble Deep Field. In the emptiest spot we could find, the repaired telescope found galaxies all the way down. The retellings forget one thing: the mirror itself was never fixed. It is still up there tonight, still perfectly, precisely wrong. Every instrument behind it built to cancel an error that was never supposed to exist. Wearing its glasses, Hubble has made over 1 million observations, fed over 20,000 scientific papers, and helped prove that the expansion of the universe is speeding up. But the Allen board's sentence stands over all of it. The data were available. Nobody looked. The rescue left a habit. In July of 2026, a robotic spacecraft set out to catch another falling NASA telescope, called Swift. No astronauts this time. 3 mechanical grippers and a deadline. Whatever becomes of that chase, the instinct behind it was born in December 1993. When our eyes on the universe fail, we do not look away. We go up. The verdict on Hubble's mirror was written in November of 1990, but the Postmortem writes itself. The only question is whether anyone reads it before the next one.